I gotta tell you, this is gonna be one of those moments of truth because I'm gonna tell you what no one will tell you about food in Mexico. Now, if you're a sensitive viewer, particularly if you're a Madre Mexicano, you may want to stop watching this now because I'm about to reveal the truth to the world about food here in Mexico. See, for years, I've been making videos. I'm an activist. I speak out as much as I can against corruption, about the people all over the world being imprisoned. Well, today's video is going to be a little lighter in tone. But if you're Mexicano, this may actually be very, very serious. I recognize as a gringo that I don't understand comida mexicano like a Mexicano does. The food culture here is real. It's recognized as a world heritage, and I recognize that. I recognize with shame and dishonor that I didn't know what a real taco was until I was 25 years old. Yes, I thought it was this hard Dorado shell with lettuce and sour cream and ground beef, and that was called a taco. And Mexicanos, when I show them a photo of that, literally just start laughing. Thank you, Taco Bell. The street food, the food of the houses down here, it's amazing, and there's a rich culture. And if you go to a taqueria, you're gonna find these delicious foods. If you go to the beach, you can find those bacon wrapped prawns and all these dishes, rich and yummy. If you go into the houses, you see yet another level when you get into tamales oaxaqueños and the real food. I'm not talking about the all corn tamales with barely a stitch of flavor that you find for cheap on a street corner. I'm talking about real aguachile. I'm talking about tamales oaxaqueño or acapulqueño. I'm talking about real flavor that is off the charts, next level, amazing food. But there is a darker side to food in Mexico. And no, I don't mean that if you come down here, you're probably gonna deal with a little stomach or diarrhea. Not because the food is actually bad. In fact, one of the things they do here is they tend to cook the meat to death, and they're kind of afraid of red meat, so you don't tend to get a lot of bacteria and things like that in it, even though their standards for maybe health department kind of food quality controls are a lot lower than we're used to. It tends to be well cooked. And the style of dishes that they're doing this, meats cooked in sauces, tacos cooked in grease, well cooked, almost to the point of seared, tacos pastor, beefsteak in salsa verde. Not a taco, by the way, even though you still put it on a taco. I get laughed at all the time because we gringos think if it's on a tortilla, it's a taco, and they make a lot of fun of me, but I'm like, it's on a tortilla, it's food. I'm calling it a taco. And of course, it's not a taco. And they also kind of eat all the parts, right down to things like stomach and intestines and things that a lot of times I'm just like, you know what, I respect the food, but I can smell that and the pungency of it, and thank you, I'm not hungry. They are usually very understanding that we gringos are pretty squeamish about the parts that we eat. But let's get to that darker side because that's probably what you came here for. I get a lot of B-roll from my other photo channel. I'll put the link to that in the comments that you don't see here a lot of times. Cool places, amazing food, and I'll try to throw a lot of that in here. But what's not great about the food in Mexico? Well, anything that's not comida mexicano. And I think what's happening is there's so much pride for the food here. If you're a hijo mexicano, if you're a kid in Mexico, you are not back talking to your mom about the food that she gives you because she's gonna part your madre. And you don't even wanna go there. So as particularly a man going into houses here and saying, oh, that's not really spaghetti. They look at me like I am 2 steps out of my court and I better watch my P's and Q's. I actually can cook pretty well. I'm a barista. I know a lot about coffee. I've traveled a lot, but I don't pretend to know how to master their foods. When it comes, however, to somebody serving me a plate of noodles with ketchup on it and calling it spaghetti, I start to have a problem. Now, I recognize that Italians would probably look at the way that gringos take spaghetti and put huge meatballs on it and kind of have our own version of it and say, that's not spaghetti. Pizza here in Mexico, it's not uncommon to find a big fat crust that's downright sweet and then they put ketchup on it. No, no, and no. The hamburgers tend to be adulterated with fillers to make them cheaper. And even if they say they're pure beef, they might be filled with onions or other fillers to make them cheaper, maybe even with pork to knock down the cost per kilo. They'll be incredibly thin. The hot dogs are even worse. There's literally not a beef hot dog sold on the Mexican store shelves. In fact, if you want a real beef hot dog, you're going to be going to somewhere like Sam's or Costco, because Mexicanos basically don't even know it exists. Hot dogs here are those thin, mushy, gummy, turkey, pork, chicken, low quality. Yes, they have chorizo here, and it can be very good, but it tends to be kind of spicy, dark red or green, spice, kind of almost paprika-ish in flavor. Nothing like a German sausage, a bratwurst, or a lot of the sausage culture that we would get in Europe or in the US. Breakfast sausage essentially doesn't even exist here. They are good at their food and they make it their way. And so therefore, the way they make Italian, Japanese, etc. is good enough. The problem is it's oftentimes downright awful. A salad is usually wilted lettuce with some grated carrot, a tomato, and no dressing at all. They just give you a lime, unless you go to a place that actually has learned about salads and it's a salad restaurant. Sushi is another level. They can have 20 varieties of sushi that's made with Cheetos, with Doritos, with all manner of strange and carnal things, and yet not know how to make a California roll. It's totally good to be proud of the heritage of Comida Mexicano, but be open-minded to the fact that other foods are different. And just because your food culture is amazing doesn't mean that you can take spaghetti or pizza or sushi and totally butcher it and expect the world to acknowledge it as great. It would be like me coming in with the Taco Bell taco, which you rightly laugh at, and saying, no, this is how we make a taco. This is a good taco. This is how a taco should be. No, it's not a taco. And I'm not going to pretend it is. Utmost respect to the way, with the simplest tools and the simplest ingredients, the mothers and the sisters and the men too, but it does tend to be more of a feminine art in the kitchen culturally down here. The things they can do with food, absolutely delicious. But then you come to things like beer and wine. It's the same problem. You get a beer like Dos Equis, that's just a regular store beer, and it's kind of neutral, just like store beers, bulk beers usually are. It's good, it's refreshing. The problem is when you get into the craft beers, they tend to be expensive, sometimes as much as $5 a bottle. And this is what happens when they get a little presumido and they think, oh, we're doing something artisanal and craft quality. Even though there's a lot of craft beers down here, there's not a lot of very good ones. In fact, most of them, even if they're supposed to be a golden ale, tend to taste like an IPA because they're so overloaded with hops. We have a pretty good beer culture in the USA. And of course, like almost all the food in the USA, that was imported from other cultures across the world from back before the US was completely fascist and racist and had all these unconstitutional immigration controls, because the US was founded on the idea that anyone could come here. And because that, I think we tend to have a more open-minded, wide range mix of foods because they were brought in from their own culture. The same thing is happening with wine. Querétaro is a wine state. While there are a few good wines here, it's not great. And the fact is that a $10 a bottle wine from California, which is a very expensive state, is usually substantially better than a $20 a bottle of wine from Querétaro. Because again, you have this same problem. Oh, this is artisanal. That is to say, it's handmade, it's craft brewed. They charge an arm and a leg for it, but they don't actually know what they're doing that well, and the quality is pretty subpar. Everyone I know that's come to visit Mexico loves the food, the street food, the tacos, the restaurants, the seafood. The food's amazing here. If you're drinking tequila or pulque or tepache or drinks that come from Mexico, they're going to be amazing, and the standards are going to be high for their quality. But a lot of times when you're doing these other foods and drinks and hot dogs, well, they're not, because they grew up on these and they don't necessarily have a point of reference for what those foods are supposed to be. So I did this video not only to share with you guys what food is like and the dirty secrets of food that no one actually wants to talk about, because we're all supposed to say that all the food's amazing down here. And the truth is, it's not always. There's room to grow. I love Comida Mexicano, and it's amazing. I hope you enjoyed this a little more casual video, sharing with you kind of some of, well, the dirty little secrets about what goes on in other countries. If you like this, leave a comment, like, subscribe, tell me what you think, and we'll see you on the next one. I think I'm just gonna go get a regular cheap beer now, because the expensive one was just okay.